Hey guys, Mark here. In this video, I want to go over how I've made $3.9 million in this branded dropshipping store selling a saturated product. Now, the reason I make this video is simply to open your mind to show you that you don't need to go after products like most people are saying that are completely untapped. And I actually want to introduce you to a strategy that you can use to basically make any product that you really find quote unquote winning product. And so I want to show you the strategy and more importantly, the lens to kind of look through in order to really turn any product that you test into a winner. And once I really found this out in my journey, it was kind of like a before and after moment. I was really like, oh, I kind of really understand how products work and why some products work and some products just simply don't. And so this is the concept that I want to show you. And the first thing that I want to show here is very, very simple. It's every single product that you were ever to test, like most things, including myself, it exists on a spectrum, right? And let's say that this spectrum here, over here on the left-hand side, you have products that are basically what we call like untapped products. So there's basically zero competition for the products over here on the left-hand side. And then obviously on the right-hand side, this is going to be just like a ton of competition, like lots of competitors, very, very quote unquote saturated products over here on the right-hand side. So every single product that you're looking for when you're doing your product research, it exists somewhere on the spectrum. Obviously over here, you have the products that are brand new. This is the strategy that most gurus recommend these days, where they're like, you want to find products before anybody else does, catch on to the trend before anybody else. And for me, I think that these products are very, very difficult to find. These are what I call unicorn products, where nobody is selling them. You're the first to the market. And therefore, if the product doesn't work, you just move on to the next one, scrap it and move on to the next one. And the problem with this ideology is that it gives you this illusion that the entire reason that you're successful or not successful all comes down to the product. That has nothing to do with your marketing, with your creatives. It's all just a product. And I don't think that this is the right way to think about dropshipping and to think about business in general, because it completely neglects the entire other half of running a successful branded dropshipping store, which is everything else that goes into being successful, like your funnel, your store, your creatives, your ad strategy, etc. And so obviously over here on the right-hand side, we have the unicorns. And over here on the right-hand side, we have these really, really saturated products that have just been completely ran through by competitors. Maybe they've been around for a few years and they are what we call saturated products. So every single product that you test at any point in time, it exists somewhere on the spectrum. And what most people don't really tell you is that depending on where this product really is on the spectrum, you need to compensate with something called a competitive advantage. That's really the concept that I want to teach you in this particular video, because this is basically how it works. So if you decide to test a product that is completely unsaturated, you don't have to compete on anything else except for the product, because the product is just so freaking good that you don't need to have a perfect store. You don't need to have a perfect creative. You don't need to have a perfect ad strategy. The product is going to do all the selling for you. Now, the problem, of course, is that these products are extremely difficult to come by. It's like 1 in 1,000, maybe even. And obviously for a beginner or for somebody who's maybe a little bit seasoned in dropshipping, that's never the strategy that I recommend, because it's a completely one-dimensional view of dropshipping and marketing in general. And so the products that you want to test, I think, should be closer to the right-hand side of this particular spectrum, specifically from, about here to here. This is kind of where I think you'll find the most golden products, because they do have competition, right? There is proof, there is validation that the product is actually in demand. However, there's so much competition that customers are completely just used to seeing ads, creatives, and stores that are selling this product. And so the concept that I want to introduce to you is another spectrum that you add on top of it over here, which is basically the farther you go in the saturated direction, right? So all the way over to the right, the more competitive advantages that you really need to have. So over here, you can have basically zero competitive advantages. I'm gonna abbreviate it as CA. So you don't need any competitive advantage because you're literally just competing on the product. Whereas over here, you need a lot of competitive advantages. And in this video, I'm actually gonna show you the various different ways that you can compete, where you can find a product kind of in this golden range here, where there are some competitors selling the product, and then you can compete on something outside of the product to actually make your brand profitable and be able to scale to 6, 7, or even 8 figures. Again, the illusion that all the gurus and YouTube videos are telling you is that the only way to be successful in dropshipping is to go after a product that basically has zero competition, a product that is completely untapped, in which case you are only competing on the product. You have no other competitive advantage in the market. And like I said, the problem with this method is that they are extremely hard to come by. So the trap that most people fall into is they just continue to test product after product after product, wasting hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in ad spend, because they think that the only reason that they're not successful is simply because of the product. But instead of doing that, what you can do is find a product kind of in this golden range right here and simply add a competitive advantage so that you can actually scale profitably. And so what I want to introduce you in this video is the various different ways that you can compete on something outside of the product to actually make your brand successful and scalable. So I'm actually going to list out the 7 different things that you can compete on inside of your dropshipping business so that you can take a product that is, really pretty saturated. It's more on the right-hand side of that spectrum. And guess what? You can still make money with it if you're competing on one of these things. And I'm actually going to rank them in order of difficulty. So the first few things are the most difficult for you to compete on. And as we go down the list, they become easier and easier. And they still provide you with that competitive advantage that helps you get your brand off the ground in the first place. So the first thing that you can really compete on is competing on budget. And obviously, this is not going to apply to the majority of people watching this video. However, if you come into e-commerce, you come into the dropshipping space and you have a budget of like $100,000, you can very easily spend a lot of money just spam testing products, product after product after product, but you have so much budget to deal with that you can go very, very deep into the negative and still be profitable. And if you don't have a lot of capital set aside in the first place, it's very difficult to compete on this. So for beginners or anybody with a budget under, let's say $20,000, this is not what you want to compete on. The second thing that you can really compete on to be profitable from day one is competing on data. As we know, when you start running ads on Facebook or TikTok or wherever, all the data is stored in the ad account and is captured by the pixel. So if I were to give you an ad account for a particular product that has already spent like $1 million on ads, like that pixel is holding $1 million worth of data, and I said, hey, test a product now, you're going to have no problem getting that product off of the ground because there's already so much data that is just deeply embedded within that particular ad account. So it's very easy to get off the ground. Now, this is very similar to the first competitive advantage because it's not going to apply to most people watching this video because you do need to have an ad account that is already spent within the niche that you're actually marketing in. So this is another one where if you have the budget, it's great. But if not, it's really not a super effective competitive advantage for you to compete on. Now, the third thing that you can compete on is actually what's called back-end economics. And I know that sounds like a bunch of fancy words kind of smashed together. So let me actually explain what I mean here. Whenever you hear somebody say the word backend, all that means is what happens after you have already acquired the customer. So the way that you can compete on your backend economics is mostly going to be through 2 specific metrics, right? That's going to be through your LTV, which stands for your lifetime value, and it's going to be through your repeat purchase rate, right? So how good are you at getting customers who have bought from you once to come back and buy from you again and again and again? I have a good friend of mine that runs a supplement company that generates over $100 million a year. Yes, you heard that right, $100 million. And when they're running ads to the main product that they're selling, they go very, very deep into the red. Their average return on ad spend is around at 0.7. They're spending like $100,000 a day, which means that they're losing $30,000 on the front end every single day. But because their back-end economics are so strong and they have things like subscriptions built in the back end, they have a very, very high repeat customer rate. It doesn't really matter because they're still going to be very, very profitable as time goes on. So maybe they're not profitable on day one, but after 1, 2, 3 months goes by, because they have so many other offers that they're actually selling to the customers, they have a very, very strong LTV and a very high repeat purchase rate. What that means is that it doesn't matter if they go negative on the front end because in the back end, that's where they actually make all the profit. That's where all of their money is actually made. Now, again, this is very, very difficult to compete on from day one because it means you're actually going to be going negative from the start. And that money that comes, 1, 2, 3 months down the line, that's never guaranteed. And so if you don't have a very, very strong back end and you're not very skilled in that particular skill set, again, this is not something that you're going to want to compete on from day one. Now, the next thing that you can compete on is actually something that's going to apply to the majority of people watching this video, which is competing on creatives. And I'm going to say this as bluntly as I possibly can. Most people that get into dropshipping in general have no idea how to make high curiosity, high performance creatives. They simply just don't know. They're typically just taking content all across the internet, kind of mashing it together. Maybe they're stealing content from competitors and running it on a brand new ad account with zero data. And then they wonder why they're not profitable. Well, the reason you're not profitable is because you're taking creatives that are stolen, or you're taking creatives that are just not high performance in the first place. So how do you expect to be profitable? However, because this is something that I'm really skilled in, I can actually go and find a competitor that is killing it with a particular product, and I can actually outcompete them on my creatives, right? I can increase the creative production. Like maybe they're testing only 2 or 3 creatives every single week, and I can come in and test 10, 20, 30 plus creatives, and I can actually beat them in terms of profitability and scale because my creative production is so freaking high. And by the way, if you don't know what creatives means, all that means is the visual asset that is driving the results on your paid ads. So that's either the video or the image ads that you're using to actually get results. So this is something that can apply to everybody watching this video. This is how you can take a saturated product, I put that in quotes, a saturated product, and actually beat all your competitors because you deeply understand what actually resonates with the market, and you're increasing your creative production, testing more and more and more compared to your competitors. So you can come in and scoop up market share, scoop up sales and profit, while your competitors, because they're not testing enough creatives, are simply not. Now, the fifth thing that you can compete on, and again, this is progressively becoming easier and easier to compete on, is what I call front-end economics. And the two metrics that are associated specifically with your front-end economics are going to be your AOV, which is your average order value, as well as your conversion rate, your CVR. And this is what I base a lot of my testing around, and a lot of the content on my YouTube channel is all about how you can increase your front-end economics. And let me explain why competing on front-end economics is so powerful and how you can actually do it yourself. So what most people do, let's say you're selling a product on your Shopify store that costs $40 and your break-even point is $20. So you can spend up to $20 to acquire a customer and break even. So anything that is under a $20 CPA is where you're actually making your money. So in this example, you're selling a product for $40, your CPA is $20, which means you are breaking even on this particular product test. Well, what it means to compete on front-end economics is two things. Number one is competing on your average order value. And what that means is that for every single customer that comes into your business, instead of that customer being worth $40, you have an average order value, let's say, of $80. And if you're sitting there wondering, Mark, how the hell do I take a product that costs $40 and have an average order value of $80? Well, that's what the rest of my channel is for. So if you haven't watched all my videos, please go do that. But in this particular case, if your CPA is 20 and your AOV is 80, that means that you have substantially greater margin. So here, if you're selling a product for 40 and your CPA is 20, you're breaking even. However, if your AOV is 80, instead of having a $20 margin right here, right, you now have a $40 margin, which means that you can spend an additional $20 more than your competitors just to break even. And so this is super, super powerful because as you scale, one thing is always true. The more money you spend on ads, the higher your CPA typically gets. That's just a universal law of marketing. Typically, if you go from spending $1,000 a day to $50,000 a day, your CPA naturally is going to go up. But most people make the mistake of not really maxing out their average order value. So the more that they try to spend, they hit the scaling ceiling and they just can't spend any more money and still be profitable. Well, when you're competing on front-end economics, specifically with your AOV, now every single customer that comes into your business is literally twice as valuable, which means you can spend significantly more money and have a lot more profit, a lot more of kind of a cushion where you can scale and still make a lot of money with your business. Now, the other way to scale with your front-end economics is specifically with your conversion rate. So if your competitors, for example, are converting on average at 1.5%, so if 100 people land on their particular landing page, that means that 1 to 2 of them will actually go through and purchase a product. Let's say you are just a whiz at conversion rate optimization. You know exactly how to turn a random stranger on the internet, a cold visitor, into a red hot buyer. Well, if that's the case, let's say that you have a conversion rate of 3%. So instead of having, 1 or 2 customers come in for every single, $100 that you spend, you actually have 3, which means that you're going to have more customers coming through the door every single day. So this is all about conversion rate optimization. I'll make an entirely separate video on exactly how to do that. But these are 2 ways that you can compete on your front end economics specifically, so that as you scale, as you start to spend more money on ads, you have a significantly greater cushion than your competitors, so that you can spend so much more money on ads and still break even compared to your competitors that don't have any order bumps, any upsells in place, and they're struggling just to get off the ground. Whereas you, on the other hand, since you have so much cushion to work with, you're super, super profitable literally from day one. Now, the 6th thing on this list that you can compete on to get your business off the ground profitably and quickly as possible is going to be competing on angles. Now, here's a really cool part about angles. They cost you just about nothing for you to do. If you go look at a competitor, for example, I did this in a video a few days ago that is selling, for example, specifically to cater to the weight loss angle, you could go and sell the same product to the same people, but simply sell it in a different way. For example, maybe instead of selling a product that focuses on weight loss, you sell a product that specifically specializes in targeting people with nerve pain. And so you're going after a completely different segment of that particular market. However, you're still selling the same product to generally the same group of people. And that's the power of using different marketing angles. Not everybody buys the same product for the exact same reason. But you, using your creative mind that you got between your two ears, you can come in and actually be more profitable than all your competitors from day one, simply because you're using a saturated product with an unsaturated angle, right? A product that is being sold by all these competitors, but nobody's tapping into this untapped angle. And that's a great cost-efficient way for you to get your brand off of the ground. And that's something that you can compete on literally from day one. Now, the seventh and final thing that you can really compete on to turn any saturated product into a product that is actually putting profit in your pocket every single day is going to be to compete on time. So for the people watching this video that you literally have $0 to your name, basically, like you don't have any money to spend on ads, you don't really have anything. If you can't pay with your money, you have to pay with your time. It's just a universal law of the universe. If you don't have money, you have to pay some other way. And so you can pay with your time. So what this really means is obviously paid ads are completely out of the question. If you don't have any money, you can't run paid ads. In fact, if you don't have at least $2,000 set aside, I do not recommend running paid ads at all. So if that's you, what is the solution? Well, the solution is to run your product on organic traffic. Now, here's the super cool thing about organic. You can post as many times as you want on organic platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And if you're creative enough, if you understand how the algorithm works and you tap into these high curiosity hooks and content pieces, you can actually drive those people that are watching your video to a link in bio on that specific TikTok page or Instagram page. And you can literally convert traffic for free without spending a single dollar on paid advertising. Like, the fact that this exists right now in 2024 is just crazy to me, because you can literally start your business basically for nothing. Now, granted, it's not easy, of course. Like, there's a huge trade-off here because you do have to pay with your time. So if you're starting off with like running an e-commerce or dropshipping store through TikTok organic, for example, you need to put in the reps. I recommend people that come into my program, for example, you want to be posting on TikTok 4 times a day. Look at the top posts that are selling a product that's similar to yours and use the same hooks, use similar content pieces, but put your own unique spin on it. And you can literally like build an audience of tens of thousands of people, even hundreds of thousands of people, without investing a single dollar into paid ads. It's one of the greatest opportunities like in the existence of e-commerce. But the ultimate caveat is, yes, you have to pay with your time. And most importantly, you need to be extremely resilient. I've had people that have literally posted like 20, 30 times and they never get a video that gets above like 500 views. And then literally the next video that they post gets millions of views and they make tens of thousands of dollars in sales and thousands of dollars in profit. And that thousands of dollars in profit, now that you have it, guess what you're going to do? You're going to go reinvest it in paid ads and start competing on everything else here, like angles, front-end economics, creatives, etc. I'm telling you guys from the bottom of my heart, once I really understood this, it made everything so much easier. And you can actually understand why there are people out there with like the most ugly dropshipping stores on the planet and they're freaking killing it. You know why? It's because they're competing on something that you can't compete on yourself. Even if it's a saturated product, if they have all the budget in the world, guess what? They can still be profitable. If they have all the data that they want in their ad account and through their pixels, guess what? They can still be profitable. Now, for most people watching this, that's probably not going to be applicable to you. However, you can compete on all these other things like your creatives, your front-end economics, AOV, CVR. You can compete on angles, and worst comes to worst, if you literally have nothing to your name, you can compete on time and start posting content organically to drive sales and actually get your brand off the ground. And once you do get that initial cash flow coming in, you can reinvest that into paid ads and actually make it profitable. Now, I'm not going to go into depth on every single one of these, specifically like how to execute it, because each one of these could be its own like 2 to 3 hour long video. But I just want you to understand this, because once you do, you can go do your product research or competitor research and understand exactly why they are successful, and more importantly, how you can become successful as well by competing on something just a little bit different. Maybe that's running the same product with a new angle. Maybe that's running the same product with better economics, like you're running a real funnel, a real direct response style funnel with an advertorial page, with VSL ads, with VSL creatives. It's fully up to you. You can compete on anything that you want. The playing field is completely level. You just have to decide what it is that you specifically are good at and what you want to compete on yourself. And this is all stuff that we teach. Me and my partner, Alex Fedorov, we teach this inside of our program called Brand Builders Academy, where we don't actually show you how to, for example, come up with unique marketing angles, build high performance creatives, max out your AOV, but we actually assign you a coach that'll literally hold your hand through the entire process and give you the highest chance of success. So if you're interested, you can click the first link in the description and apply for Brand Builders Academy. Full transparency, we don't accept everybody, but if you're wanting to work a little bit closely with me and my team, then you can click the first link in the description and apply for that. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I do have one really exciting announcement, which is that I'm actually building a super affordable community. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to build it, but if you want to join the waitlist for joining that community, just hit the second link in the description. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.